If you're interested in immigrating to Canada in 2026 using Express Entry, but everything sounds confusing, including CRS scores, draws, ITA, profile, well, this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to break down Express Entry for 2026 into simple steps, all the documents you need, what you should do before you even apply, and how the entire system actually works in very simple English. You should know exactly where you stand and what your next steps should be. Make sure you watch till the end because one small mistake can delay your application for months. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ify and this is Ify's Beats, and here I discuss immigration, life in Canada, and real life everyday experiences. If that sounds like your thing, please like, subscribe, share, comment, and engage in whatever form. So before I proceed into the video, you are wondering, why am I qualified to do this? Well, I am not a licensed immigration lawyer or consultant. I'm only telling you from information that we can all gather from the RICC website. It's publicly available information, and I'm also going to be telling you about my personal experiences as a Nigerian who immigrated to Canada using the Express Entry process, and today is a Canadian citizen. So first of all, what is Express Entry? So Express Entry is not a visa, it's not an application on its own. So Express Entry is a system that helps the Canadian government rank and select people, select the people that they're interested in coming to Canada, most especially skilled immigrants. So think of it this way: Canada needs skilled workers. Express Entry helps Canada rank and select the people they're interested in coming to Canada as permanent residents. You join a pool. The pool ranks you, and then Canada not randomly, but you are selected based on your score to then officially apply. And once you've applied, submitted your documents, and your application has been approved, you can then come to Canada as a permanent resident. So before I go deeper, I'm going to explain the different programs under Express Entry. So the three programs are Federal Skilled Worker, FSW, Federal Skilled Trades Program, FST, and Canadian Experience Class, CEC. Now for the Federal Skilled Worker, FSW, this is the one where most people who live outside of Canada fit in perfectly. So it fits in for people with foreign education, foreign work experience, and good English or French, or both. For Federal Skilled Trades Program, FSC, this is for people in the skilled trades like electricians, welders. I haven't really met a Nigerian under that program, but yes, it's an option too. And the last program is the Canadian Experience Class. This is for people who have worked in Canada for at least a year. Usually people who are outside Canada don't qualify, so most people who come in as students tend to go through the CEC route, especially in 2020. So step 3 is, what are the basic requirements before you even think of applying for Express Entry? Now I'm going to be focusing more on the FSW because it's the route program I used, and it's the program that most people outside Canada qualify for. What are the things that you require to apply? You need education, you need work experience, and you need language skills. And lastly, you need proof of funds. So for education, you need to have your degrees assessed, and it has to be at least a diploma or a degree. You have them assessed. So personally, when I did mine in 2019, I had a professional degree. I had it assessed or evaluated by WES, World Education Services. So you need to have that done, and that's like stage 1. Depending on how fast your school is determines how fast WES can be. It can take 30 days if your school is very fast in responding. As someone who graduated from a federal university, as at 2019, it took a while. Honestly, it was 2019/2020. I started the WES process November of 2019, and it took up until almost August before it was ready. But I've heard now that the process is faster because everything now is online. But WES doesn't take too long. Everything is dependent on your school. So you have to find the body that is supposed to evaluate your degree. Most people can be evaluated by WES. I know as of 2019, some people, lawyers were evaluated by WES, but it wasn't evaluated as a professional degree. And when you are evaluated as a professional degree, you get more points versus a BSc. So I know as at that time, lawyers were using ICAS. I don't think and I'm referring to law degrees from Nigeria. I don't know if that has changed as at 2026. So when it comes to education, you get more points the higher your education is. So masters have even more points than just BSc holders, and PhD have some more points than master's degree. And then there's also two or more diplomas, two or more certificates. So if you have HND and OND from Nigeria, it gives you two or more degrees. So it's actually better than just evaluating your BSc. So if you have OND and HND, you have almost the same points as someone who has a master's degree. So it is a very good option versus someone who has just a BSc. And you want to evaluate your highest degree. There is no point in evaluating your master's and still evaluating your BSc. If you have a master's, evaluate it. If you have a PhD, evaluate it. It gives you the highest points. The expectation is that if you have a master's, you definitely have a BS. For work experience, you need a minimum of 1 year of work experience, and you need to find your NOC code. So NOC code is National Occupation Classification. That's the meaning of NOC. And it's a national system of classifying occupations. So each occupation is given a code. So you need to find what you're trying to match is your job experience, your job details with a NOC. So sometimes you might be doing one role, but it encompasses multiple NOCs. So you have to find the NOC that matches the best. For example, so you might find someone who is doing an administrative role, but their name isn't necessarily called an admin. But if you look at their job description, and the things they do every day in the office, it matches directly with what is being described for an admin NOC. So that's most likely what your NOC is. So for language tests, you can either take English or French. And if you have both, it gives you even more points. So for English, you can either take IELTS, CELP, or PTE. And each of those exams have minimum scores you're supposed to score to be able to enter the pool. And for those exams, you're taking the general version, you're not taking academic. Academic is usually used when you're trying to get into school. Also, take note that I have an IELTS video on my page. You can go watch that if you're trying to write IELTS. I have evergreen tips that I gave on that video that have helped many people to do well in their IELTS exam. So even though there is a minimum score you should be scoring for your language test, but the goal is to max it out as much as possible. As I said, the higher you score, the better your chances of getting invited to apply for permanent residency. And then there are also the French exams, the TEF and the TCF. As I also said, similar, what applies to English also applies to French. You need to maximize it as much as possible to increase your chances. And then finally is proof of funds. You have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account to be approved for permanent residency. That amount increases every year. So if you're watching this video by chance, I already have a profile, please make sure that you've updated your proof of funds for the year. So for 2026, the updated amount for proof of funds is 50,000. This is for a family of one. The amount changes depending on how many people are trying to immigrate in your family. So if your application is for a family of two, it's about $19,000, and family of three goes up to $23,000. And this is in Canadian dollars, please, not US. So ideally, the money should be yours, it should be in your account, and it should be available for you to settle in Canada. So the next step are the documents that you need to complete your application. So first step are documents you need to even start before you can even enter the pool. Those are the two things you need. It is your education evaluation from WES. And as I said, it could be for other bodies depending on your occupation, or depending on your degree. And secondly is your IELTS. Without those two, you should not even be creating a profile. So once you have those two, you can then create your profile and join the pool. So once you've been invited to apply, you then need these other documents to complete your application. They include a police certificate. In Nigeria currently, the police certificate isn't very expensive. I think about 50,000 naira, and it can be done online and it's smoother, unlike before. You need your marriage certificate if applicable. You need to do a medical exam. I did my medical exam with IOM in Abuja. I believe they're still the ones who do medical exams for people. And then more documents you need are your proof of fund documents. Honestly, even that you should have an idea of what that should be like by the time you're filling your profile, because you're already claiming you have this money while filling your profile. Final documents are references from work. To have your IELTS and your ECA, all you need to do is go to RICC's website and create your express entry profile. This can be a tedious task because you have to fill a lot of information, but make sure that whatever you're filling is accurate and things that you can vouch for when you're invited to apply. So you're going to be entering your age, your education, your work history, your language scores, and some bit of family information. And once you've entered all this information, the system gives you what we call a CRS score. CRS stands for Comprehensive Ranking System. And this score is how Canada ranks you and determines whether they will invite you to apply for permanent residency or not. So this is the part that I think will make a lot of sense for people who have been very confused, which is understanding your CRS score. Your CRS score is what determines your chances of getting ITA. I know there are a lot of terms that might seem confusing. So CRS, I've already explained it, Comprehensive Ranking System, and ITA is invitation to apply. So the things that increases your points are age, education, IELTS, work experience, and your spouse. And also family connection in Canada. So there are about 6 things that improve your chances, which are those things the information you're obviously feeling. So if you score high in those things, when when a draw is carried out, if you score above that draw score, you then get invited to apply for permanent residence. Let me make this a little bit simpler. To join a pool, you need your ECA, your education evaluation, and your IELTS results. You then join the pool once you have those two. Now, joining the pool is basically you going to the RICC website, creating a profile, filling in your information, your age, your education, some bit of family history, work experience, and all that. You fill in all that information and you click submit, and RICC then has your profile on their system. So you're officially in the pool. When RICC carries out a draw, which is usually once every 2 weeks, the draw is basically they decide on a certain category to carry out the draw on and a certain program. They rank people that meet all these categories. They get the average score, and then that average score, if you score above it, you get invited to apply for ITA. That's basically how it works. I hope that makes sense. The thing is that RICC has what it calls the tie-break rule. So for people who score equal to the exact draw score, RICC doesn't necessarily give all of them, except the numbers of people they want to give for ITA fits in perfectly. They want to give ITA for that draw fits in perfectly. So they do a tie-break rule. So they give a certain date by which your profile has to have been created, submitted, for you to qualify for that score. So once in a while, you see some people who meet the exact draw scores, but because their profile was created too recently, they do not get called. So after you get your ITA, this is the next stage. This is very exciting. The next phase is for you to then, upload your documents, pay fees, do medicals, submit your police report. At this stage, accuracy matters because these are the things that the visa officer is going to look at. They're going to read, they're going to check to make sure that you were not lying on your application. But some people have very straightforward applications. Like myself, mine was pretty straightforward. And then sometimes you have to add LOE, which is a letter of explanation. So sometimes some things aren't very clear, but you want to explain why it is that way. So you get a blank sheet, type your letter in explaining to the visa officer, and they're going to read this why your documents might be one way. So after you've submitted, Canada then reviews your application. Processing can take several months. This is the difficult part because some people can be waiting for 8 months, while some people are lucky and 2 months in, they're already in the next phase. So on your account, you get updates like your medicals have been passed, your security check has been completed. And then sometimes you might get additional document requests. This is when maybe a visa officer thinks that your documents are not complete or you missed something. They will probably send you an email requesting for more documents. So generally you are advised to watch your mailbox and refresh your profile as frequently as you can to make sure you do not miss any updates. So common mistakes people make in this process is that they sometimes use fake documents, or they use wrong phone numbers in case they are going to be contacted, or they match their occupation with the wrong knock. As I said, the most important thing is the job experience, like the details of your job, not just the title. Or they use wrong IELTS type, or their proof of funds is not very good. So these are things you want to avoid. Explain all these things I've said even better is very simple. You need to have your ECA and your IELTS or your language results ready before you join the pool. Joining the pool involves you creating a profile on the RICC website, entering all your information that you're asked to enter, making sure that they are accurate, because we're going to still use that same information when you've been invited to apply. And then once you're invited to apply, you take all your time, enter all the information you've been requested to enter, and then you wait for the miracle. So for 2026, there are specific changes that have happened aside this my very general explanation. So I'm going to explain some of those things so that I can help you plan better for your immigration journey. So some of the changes that have happened over the years is the category-based draws. So category-based draws is a special category that was created to fill labor shortages in Canada. That is basically saying, oh, we need people in these roles, so we're going to invite those specific people. So currently there are 6 category based roles. We have one is healthcare. So you can go and look it up on the RICC website. We have nurses, doctors, pharmacists, physiotherapists, and others. And then we have STEM occupations like software developers, data analysts, engineers, IT specialists. We have skilled trades like electricians, plumbers, welders, carpenters. And we have transport occupations like truck drivers, aircraft mechanics, marine officers, transit operators. And we have agriculture and agri-food like farm supervisors, butchers, food processing workers, etc. And finally, we have French language proficiency. Now, this one is not tied to any job. And as I said, this is the secret sauce of immigrating through express entry in 2026. The French category is not tied to any job. It is tied to you having the French proficiency results. So for them to confirm that you speak strong French, you have to take the French exam, similar to the IELTS. I mentioned it earlier, TCF or TEF. Regardless of occupation in 2026, if you have French results, you have a better chance of immigrating. Basically, what RICC has been doing is every 2 weeks, they've been carrying out draws in those 3 programs. But under FSW specifically, the draws they've been carrying out is no longer generalized draws. Oh, everybody that scores so and so. No. So under FSW, that's Federal Skilled Worker, they've been carrying out draws under the category-based system. So it's either usually going to be health or agri-food or truck drivers or French language proficiency or STEM. And amongst these 6 categories, the ones with the lowest score has been French and health a little bit, but French most especially. Health is attainable but not easily attainable. STEM not as often and very high. And with the commercial drivers and the agri-food, those ones are very niche, so a lot of people don't even meet those ones. If you go and look at the express entry previous draw scores, you can see that as of January 7th, the last draw that took place was the CEC, that's the Canadian Experience class. The score was about 511. January 5th, they did the provincial nominee program, which was 711. These ones are for people who were nominated by a province. This is a special, that would require a video of its own. But just to give you a bit of understanding, some provinces can nominate you, and when a province nominates you, you get way more points, and then that point is added to your regular federal points, and it guarantees you a chance of being able to apply. But for some provinces, you need to apply directly to them, some select from the pool. Every province has their own rules regarding provincial nomination. The last draw for the French category was 399, which is very low. So for you to understand how the scores are currently in express entry, anything below 400 is extremely low. Above 400 is also considered low currently, but it depends on where you fall in the above 400s range. And then 500 and above is considered high. Most people tend to fall between 400 to 499. As I said, most people. Even as I mentioned earlier, if you don't fall in the wanted categories, it makes it even hard for you. So the easiest way is for you to go and learn French, write English, and get called in the French draw. That's the easiest method. But as I said, healthcare is also attainable if you're in the healthcare space. The last draw took place December 11th, and it was 476. So it actually seems quite attainable if you are in the health space. So people still who had health occupations are still able to come into Canada. So more information that I don't know if I explained earlier in details would be things like your age. So people between 18 to 29 have the highest score in age. Once you clock 30 and above, you lose points every year. Now, I know that seems mean, but the idea behind it is that 18 to 29 is one of your prime, well, not your prime working years, but you are energetic, you are young, you are able to join the workforce. But the older you get, the closer you are getting to retirement. So the less desirable you have become to the express entry process. So another thing is education. I think I've mentioned this earlier. With education, the higher your degree, the better your points. For work experience, this one is pretty simple. You get the maximum points when you have worked 3 years and above. So 1 to 2 years have about the same amount of points, which when you are struggling for points everywhere, you need 3 years of work experience. So personally, when I started my process, while I was waiting for my West was when I was waiting for my 3 years of work experience to be complete. And as soon as my West was ready, that one was complete, and that was how I submitted my profile. It doesn't mean you have to wait, but I'm just telling you that with 2 years of work experience, your points wouldn't be very high. So for language ability, I've explained this: maximize, get the highest points possible. Especially for English if you're an English speaker, and then for French, we're trying French. If you're starting French from scratch, you're trying to be able to get to a point where you can use it on your express entry profile and hopefully qualify through the French category. So another thing that gives you more points is having a relative in Canada. So for me, my siblings have automatic 15 extra points because I am already a permanent resident in Canada, or sorry, a citizen. And something else that gives you extra points is a job offer. This one is what agents have been using to eat people's money. They will say, oh, there are jobs in Canada for you. If you can land here, blah, 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 blah. People are looking for jobs here. So I don't know. That one is like, it's very far-fetched. I don't think it's easy to get a job in Canada from Nigeria. And it's not just getting a job offer. The employer has to be willing to, say, oh, they are offering you this job, prove why they are offering a person not living in Canada that job. So the employer has to be interested. So it's not just a regular job offer. So it's not a case of I will just lie, they will not know I'm not in Canada, and then I'll get a job offer. It doesn't work that way. So that's why I said that one is a very far-fetched one if you don't currently live in Canada. And then the last thing is your spouse. So your spouse can either increase your score or bring it down. So when your spouse does not write IELTS or any language test, there's a good chance that they're going to bring down your score. And when they do, they increase it by a very little bit. But they have the potential to really bring down your score. I don't want to go into the details of that, but what I want to explain to you is that we have what we call the CRS score calculator. Remember what I said CRS is? the comprehensive ranking system. CRS score is basically the score you get when they add up your age, your education, your this, your that, your that. So everything is scored by a certain number, and then whatever you score by over those numbers, they add it all up, and that's your CRS score. So without even starting the process, for example, you know yourself, you know what you have, you know the degree you have, you know that, okay, if I'm able to max my IELTS, this is I am potentially able to max out my IELTS, you know this, you know that. So you can go to the CRS calculator and simulate your scores. This is the one bit that I used to really get angry with people when they would ask me to explain the express entry. And after I've taken my time to explain the process, some people will now say, some people will be expecting, they will call me and be like, Ify, this, that. I'm like, yeah, but I've sent you the CRS calculator 1,000,000 times. You're supposed to be able to simulate your scores. You are going into an IELTS exam, you don't know what you're supposed to be scoring. You don't know what you need to improve your chances. Some people can be like that they will be in the pool. If you're asking them details, they don't even know the exact details. That's why everything is in the hands of an agent. But this thing is very simple. It's easy to understand. And I hope that today, after watching this video, you're able to make sense of all the things I've said, which is you need your education, your age, your work experience to be able to get points. Two things that gets you more points are having a relative in Canada, having a job offer, and then your spouse can potentially bring down your points or give you more points if they decide to do their own education evaluation and write a language exam. But everything you will know best when you are able to go and simulate your scores on the CRS calculator. That should be the first thing you do whenever you say, oh my God. I'm going to put the link in the description of this video. Is the most important thing. And when you go and you simulate your scores, make sure that for the work experience you are inserting information for the right work experience, because the first question about work experience is about Canadian experience. I've met some people who have made the mistake of putting that they have 3 years working experience in Canada when they're supposed to put no for that question, and the next question they then put in yes, which is foreign work experience, because experience from Nigeria or any other country you're from is foreign work experience. So the CRS calculator is you basically answering all the questions for your express entry profile, and then it will calculate a score and give you that score, and that score is what you will get when you fill your profile. So it's not, that's why for a lot of people, there are some people when they get ITA, it's this miraculous thing. When they're invited to apply, ITA is invitation to apply, so when they're invited to apply, it's this miraculous thing, especially if they have been on the fringes, like their score is, for example, let's say French score was last 399 and they have 380. So for them it's exciting because they don't know if the draw score will go up or go down whenever they do it. While for some people, someone that is in health now and maybe they are scoring 488, because the last health score was 476, they are expecting that with the next health draw they're definitely going to get. So by the time they get it, they are no longer, you don't see them as excited because they were expecting it. So I think that's why for some people the experience can be very different. For those that barely got it and those that were able to get it with ease because they had everything they needed. So that's why for some people in the health sector right now that are in their 20s, they will tell you, oh, I immigrated to Canada. You see their videos, I immigrated to Canada in 3 months. You know, for someone like me, it was easy peasy for me. There was no, as soon as I got years of work experience, my score was almost 480. I didn't have a relative then, so I didn't have like a sibling, because the relative that counts, I forgot to mention this earlier, the relative that counts, it's a sibling. It is not your cousin. Your cousin in Nova Scotia will not give you extra points. They might for PMP, depending on what the PMP process for Nova Scotia is, but they won't give you extra points for the FSW. So I think I was at 480, and as at then 480 was more than enough, and we're doing draw scores, general draw scores. They hadn't started the category based. If they were still doing category based as at today, with the scores being in 470, if I were just applying for the first time, I probably would still get. So I hope my video has explained what you need to know for express entry in 2026. If you're in the health occupation, or you are able to settle down and learn French, there are many videos on learning French on YouTube today, from TikTok to YouTube. Everyone is learning French. Even people who have come to Canada using school, because of how high the CEC draws are. If I check, I believe that the last CEC draw was 511. So even people in Canada that use school to come to Canada are having to learn French. So you are in your home country, why not learn French? Why spend all that money coming to Canada if you can just start learning French from now? I'm not saying you shouldn't come with school if that's what you want to do, but I'm just telling you that being bilingual presents a huge advantage to you in 2026. So if you are in the health category, you'll know that you've simulated your score on the CRS calculator, and you know that you are scoring fine. You can settle down and learn French, so which makes you bilingual. So French, bilingual people, English and French, and people in the health sector are the people with the better chances outside of Canada that can still come here through FSW. Anyone who's outside this category, chances are you might have to consider either PMP or start with coming to school. And if you've been seeing the news lately, the government has started to deport a lot of people. So your best bet to coming into a country that is, has a population that feels like the amenities or what they have does not equate the growing population. Your best bet at surviving well is to come in as a permanent resident. It makes your life way easier. And also Canada also has a very good path to citizenship, which is why after 3 years I already have my citizenship, and I'm a meaningful contributor to this place that I call home now. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below for me. I'm going to answer any questions you might have. If you think my video was not explanatory enough and you want me to do another one explaining better, I'm willing to do that. Do not forget to watch other videos I have relating to living in Canada. And if you're trying to immigrate, I have the perfect IELTS video for you. It gives you all you need to know. A lot of people who use the IELTS video that I made when I wrote IELTS will have testified that it was really, really helpful. So please watch that. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please comment, engage in whatever form, and see you next time.